My name is Will, and I, like Mulder from the X-Files, want to believe. So I've embarked on a journey of discovery. I've talked to people deeply entrenched in the spiritual and metaphysical worlds. I've thrown myself into weird and wonderful experiences. I've even joined a coven of witches, all in the interest of finding something, anything, that will prove that there's something beyond this physical, three-dimensional world we all live in. This is the Skeptic Metaphysician. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Skeptic Metaphysician. Today I am flying solo. I know it makes me just as sad as it makes you. Believe me, when Karen's not here, it just doesn't feel the same. But we're going to try to do the best we can because my guest is going to make up for all of it. I'm excited because Katherien Lunden is a clairvoyant medium who tunes into people's vibrational energy and can see and sense images, colors, people, animals, buildings, as well as objects that validate her authenticity. Yes, we're going to dive into all that because I'm just as curious as you are just now. She hears spoken messages and feels emotions that are often channeled through spirit and guides. And she's also the host and creator of Dead Time, a podcast that offers straight talk about new beginnings, endings, spiritual connection, UFOs, spiritual phenomenon, the paranormal, and so much more. I don't even want to say anything else about her. I want to bring her on the show. So, Katherien, thank you so much for coming on Skeptic Metaphysician.
And thank you for having me, Will. I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, no, I'm excited to talk to you because you touch on some things that we've not yet explored on the show. And we found each other on one of those podcast matching sites and immediately felt drawn to your show. And I've listened to a bunch of them. And I'm really excited to talk to you about them because of the topics that you have on there. But first, I need to clarify what you mean by tuning into people's vibrational energy to see and sense images, colors, people, animals, buildings, and objects that validate your authenticity. What does that mean?
What does that mean to me? So that would mean when I sit with someone and they allow me into their energetic space, I tune in to them. So what is them? Them is everything and anything inclusive of higher self. If you believe in angels, what's going on in your life, anything I can peer into. And when I state buildings, there are times where I see objects, planes, places, things, and I do not put my opinions into it. So there will be times where if I, for example, say a keyboard comes through, I don't know what that means because when we put our opinions into our intuition, you're just getting an opinion. And people, quite honestly, I would love to think that people come to me for my opinions, but they do not.
I don't know. I'd love to hear your opinion about everything. Because most of the time when I'm looking for guidance, I'm trying to figure out what's happening. If I were to come to you as a client, for example, and you said, I'm getting this from you, and here's what I think it means, I think I would be pretty open to it. Now, just like when you go see a psychologist or a psychiatrist, they say, well, I'm finding this. Does that resonate with you? Sometimes you're like, yeah, you are way off. But sometimes, yeah, that makes perfect sense. It fits with what I'm thinking, what I'm saying, right?
Right. But I try not to put my opinions in. And yes, I will offer this could be that, or that could be this. But you do not want to take the clarity out of the intuition. And we tend to do that. All of us do that with ourselves, meaning we will have a gut instinct, we will have a feeling, and right away fear comes in or desire comes in. So it's not, in essence, pure.
Great point. And something that I've often wondered because I just saw somebody on social media post something about clairvoyance and channels. You need to be conscious of the fact that someone may need to do their own work also. And a lot of times they'll bring in their own things into a reading. So the fact that you don't do that is great to hear because it's something I hadn't thought of before, right? You think guidance, a spiritual guide is going to is not going to have just like with psychiatrists and psychologists, same thing. They're not going to have their own demons that they're fighting, so they'll give you
Right.
as much feedback or input as they can without
Right.
muddying the
And
waters.
quite often, this can be harmful to somebody's psyche because you could plant a seed. And what
Mm,
happens if we water the seed, right? It grows
right.
into a plant
Right. So you say,
or a
um,
tree.
right. I see a problem with your pancreas. Oh no, I've got pancreas cancer.
Correct. Correct.
Right.
And that is why it is also very important. And I myself do my very best to always state that while I may see something or feel something, for the individual, meaning the client, to always follow up with a doctor, meaning a
Mm,
physician, a
right.
credible physician certified for scientific diagnosis,
Mm,
correct?
yeah. No,
And
definitely.
therefore, that does bring someone like myself true validation at that time.
Wow. So when you and clairvoyants get their messages in different ways. A lot of different people. Some people hear things. Some people see things. Some people feel or know. How does it? Is it a combination for you, or how do you get your messages mostly?
Okay, I get all of it. I
All
get
of it.
all of it. And it's always been that way. So I can't say specifically for any individual that I'm just going to hear or see or feel. And my husband, unfortunately, like fortunately and unfortunately, can attest to that because I'm a crier. So he quite often, if it's been a very traumatic session, he has to deal with it later, meaning I have to purge it. I have to cry, and it
Mm.
becomes I have to cry. All right, you're gonna be okay. Like, thank you, love you.
Well, that brings up a good point. You say it could be difficult or harmful. Is there danger to the channeler? Is it something that could potentially stick with you? Like a lot of people.
Yeah, well, it's just like anything. You have a bad day of work, regardless of your position, and you are affected, correct?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
You have to de-stress, you have to recharge. That is the same as somebody that does this type of work. We still have to de-stress and recharge. And no, there's a lot of people, and I know it's human nature that we often think, okay, well, I have my clairvoyant, medium, psychic, healer person, and they're going to remember what I told them a month ago. I'm sorry. Number one, it's not healthy for myself to retain that information. And number two, I have a lot of information, so I have to find a way to get rid of that, so to
Wow.
speak, in a positive way, meaning recharging, purging, and spending time in nature, which works for me. Might not work for others, but it works for me.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because you consider yourself a clairvoyant medium, and it sounds like you actually allow spirit guides and um, angels to come through you to speak through you, but it's not. You don't necessarily call yourself a channel. Is that by design?
You mean, are those my words? Correct.
Okay. Can you give me more? Like, why? What's the difference between the two?
To me,
Yep.
um, well, can't any Okay, I guess in essence, all of it could be deemed channeling because we're changing a channel, meaning we're
Okay.
tuning in to different frequencies and vibrations, uh, correct? But I like to break it down even further in the sense of, psychic is a very broad term,
Right.
correct?
Right.
Okay, and a
Absolutely.
clairvoyant follows the clairs, okay, like clairestience, clairvoyance, clairaudience, and a medium takes it even further, meaning a medium is somebody that you would use to bring forth connection to spirit.
Okay. That makes it
Okay, and not all
perfectly clear.
psychics, broad term, once again, are mediums. And not all mediums are clairvoyants, meaning there's a beautiful array of very gifted mediums that will give you messages from spirit. And yes, sometimes those messages will not only be validation, but they may say, you know, little Johnny, don't cross the street tomorrow, meaning your guide, okay, or spirit is essentially telling you, like giving you warnings, but sometimes it's just for validation. So a clairvoyant is somebody that you would see that would validate your present and going into future, meaning messages. So that's how I break it down to bring forth more clarity in terms of what are you getting.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense to me, and now no one had explained it quite like that to me before. So how did is this something that you've been feeling or being most of your life, all of your life? Did it
This
just
is
start?
something all of my life. And I do attribute that to my lineage, meaning my mom is very gifted, yet she chooses not to do this um, professionally. Okay. My sister did do this professionally at one time, but doesn't anymore. And this is from her side of the family, as well as my father's side of the family, who my father's now my spirit guide. But so he's passed. His father, very interesting story. So his father was a part of World War II. And after the war, he came back and would hear noises and knocks, like at 3 in the morning,
Oof.
and he would open the door, nothing there. He thought he was losing his mind, like quite literally, and he actually took it and became a pastor. I know,
Wow.
left field, right? So very interesting. So this is something that's been in my lineage, I feel, for a very long time. And I myself, as a child, I was very clumsy, and I did believe I was pushed. So as you tell that to your mom, no, I didn't. I fell because I was pushed. Well, no one was there. You're just clumsy.
Interesting.
No, I was really pushed. Um, but there was always a true understanding. So my mother did not, and to this day does not try to, you're just crazy. Like, don't say that to the strangers, right?
Mm.
But she has guided myself to accept and, cultivate who I am.
Wow. So how does a small child deal with these types of things? Not just feeling like she was being pushed, but also messages. And did you see things also? Or was it just the feelings that you
As
got?
a child, yes, I did see things, and funny, funny little story here. So my siblings, when we were little, they had imaginary friends that they would talk about um, to me, and I'm the older of three, and I would see their imaginary friends. I know it sounds peculiar because a child's imaginary friend is only inclusive to themselves generally, right? So
Right.
another child wouldn't be able to see them unless they were part of that little group. I wasn't part of the group, but I could see them. So that would be one of my earliest, like what the fuck? Sorry for swearing. But I didn't know. So if you don't know any better, correct? Like if you think this is normal, why would you question it? Unless somebody plants that seed for you to question it. And I do feel there's a lot of gifted children. So it's often the children that have the imaginary friends, or the children that are scared of the witch under the bed, right?
Right. Right.
That are like, Mom, I feel this. And quite often the parent is like, no, go back to bed. Um, you
Well,
don't know
right.
what you're talking about.
I
Everything's
want to
fine.
I want to clarify that not just children are afraid of witches under their bed, because some adults might actually be too. Not that I'm scared of that or anything, but some adults could potentially be.
Some adults could, but who's to say that there's no witches under the bed?
That's my
I'm
whole
just
point.
saying.
I know she's under there. I know it. Eventually I'm going to find her. I'm going to surprise her. So you bring up a good point, right? Not everyone, but a lot of people think or say that when you are born, you are born with an innate connection to spirit. The veil is a lot thinner, and as you get older, that veil thickens up and it becomes
Some,
more difficult
yes.
to access. So then, are you are you implying that those imaginary friends of your friends were actually spirits, that the kids were
I do
actually?
feel, yes, that the amount, and that was my siblings. Um, I do feel yes. And I
Wow.
do feel in all the cases, and this is through what I've seen and through people I've worked with, that yes, that these are not just figments of our imagination, that, sometimes little Johnny or little Bethany, they are talking to someone.
Okay, that doesn't freak me out at all.
Right. It's not scary. Well,
It's,
I
it's
don't
just a little
find it
scary.
scary. I don't find it scary. But what is scary, and if we want to put the fear into it, is Hollywood depiction of that,
Well, yeah,
correct?
and that
And
may
that's
be,
where we,
that may be why I feel it's scary, because my only thought is, the girl from The Ring with the hair and the face and all that kind of stuff. That's what immediately comes to mind, right?
right. But in reality, a majority of cases that are deemed, oh, we need an exorcist ASAP, is truly, my answer is no. A majority are no. There's nothing there. Sometimes it's electricity. Sometimes it's a form of psychosis, that can be brought on by sleep deprivation. Sometimes depression can bring things forward, anxiety. There's a lot more to it than right away running off the edge and saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm haunted." And I often tell people, if you're haunted, like for real, for real, you're haunted, it's not going to be a question. You're going to know.
Hmm.
You're going to know you're haunted. You're not going to be like, maybe I should ask someone if I'm haunted. No, you will know.
Well, that's a great point, and one I don't want to think about too much. So, thank you. So, ever since I was a kid, and it's probably just comes from like you said, all the Hollywood movies out there. The thought of actually getting something to haunt me, uh, literally haunts my nightmares. Like, I don't want that to happen. When you mentioned your dad was hearing knocks, like
My
that kind of thing,
grandfather.
or your grandfather,
Correct.
that would freak me out to the point
Well,
where I think I would probably go crazy. Right.
well, it did freak him out. He became a pastor. It did freak him out.
Fair point. Fair point. Yeah. Right. So, um, your show Dead Time talks about a lot of these things, and I'm curious as to what your experience has been with it all. Now, I understand as a clairvoyant medium, you have direct access to a lot of things that most of us don't. So, on your show, you talk about the paranormal, spiritual phenomenon, but you also talk about UFOs and things like that. How does that all fit in together?
Well, it's all unknown, right? It's all some things that we don't go to a dinner party. Well, maybe we do and have these discussions openly, correct?
It-
Even in this day and age, it is still taboo. As much as we think we've evolved, it's still taboo. Talk of even death is still very taboo.
Right. Unless we want to freak each other out, then we tell
Right.
ghost stories and things like that, right?
So that's where my idea about Dead Time came, as well as the myriad of wonderful guests I've had the opportunity to work with. I, have been, I believe, brought to me, but also in a sense carefully selected due to their authenticity, because we all know within the spiritual industry, there is a lot of miscommunication, misconception, misses. There's some hits, but there's misses. And sometimes we need to bring forth and shed a light on what's really out there, meaning, and I'm going to speak for myself. I'm a clairvoyant medium, but I'm not a healer. I won't claim that, but there are people in this industry who would. And that's also a part of my show, to show you that, not really. And yes, there can be one and the same, but we also have to look for credibility. And with some hats, certain types of healers, and I'm going to talk about hypnotherapy, um, they have to have certification, okay, to back them up.
Right. Sure.
Okay, because they're working with people's psyches. And in a sense, we all are. And the spiritual industry itself is not really as an industry that, we don't have a better business bureau, so to speak,
Not yet.
monitoring that.
Yeah. Interesting to see 30, 40, 50, 100 years down the road if that changes. I am of the mindset that the veil is thinning because since I've embarked on this show, this journey of discovery, I'm finding everywhere I turn, there's someone else that is in this space in a different way and somehow. It seems to be a far cry more than it was back in my 20s when I was first looking into all these things. Now, it could be that people are becoming a little bit more open with their skills and talents and things like that and their gifts. It could also be that more people are getting these gifts or are being born closer to the veil because it is getting closer to a time where we actually have to wake up. And a part of me hopes that at some point this all becomes mainstream, right? With the advent of quantum mechanics and all that stuff. It now has allowed people like me who are crazy pragmatic, scientific mindset people to think, okay, maybe there's something to this crazy stuff that people have been talking about for years, right? Since the 60s, people have been talking about this kind of thing. So the CIA started doing experiments in astral projection and remote viewing and all that kind of stuff back in the 60s and 70s. So even back then, they were thinking maybe there's something to this thing. But there's still a stigma, right?
Correct.
As the host of the show, there's very few people in my circles that really know that I have this show because they think I'm crazy. What are you doing, right? If they listen to the show and they hear me say, wow, you're a clairvoyant medium and really, truly, genuinely be excited about talking to you about that, they're going to think I've gone off the deep end because I live in a very scientific mindset type of world that doesn't accept that kind of thing. What are your thoughts on where we're headed? Why is there such are we stuck? Like, is there a way to broach the topic with people that's going to allow us to not be looked at as loons?
I would
ask all the
love,
hard questions.
you know what? I'm going to tell you, I would love I would love to say that day will come. Unfortunately, I don't necessarily feel that.
Mm,
I do feel there has been more openness towards this. Some of it is, and this is what I truly believe, is because a lot of people have begin or are began to turn away from organized religion. And the core of us, our cores, need something to believe in, whether that's a God spark or hope itself. Correct?
right.
So this, I feel, is turning, it's the new age, right? We want something to believe in. Okay. However, now here's my however. As much as people have turned away and they're seeking something, there's also a lot of people, and we can, some people in this industry blame science. I don't, because we need science, right? We need it.
I'm glad you
Like,
said that.
for
Yeah.
okay, so I believe in science as much as I believe in this. Um, Regardless, there are people now that have turned away from all of it, meaning I don't believe in anything, I believe in nothing.
Mm.
Okay? So this is that a balance or is that a divide? And that's where I see us going in this. When you talk about the stigma, I myself have been doing what I'm doing for many years, and I do have children. And I have to tell you, for many years, and still to this day, I do not openly talk about what I do.
I, I
Okay.
I don't find that hard to believe, honestly.
Right. So if people find me, they find me. If they don't, I am not somebody that's going to solicit what I do. I know in we'll say, my other circles that are to do with, let's just say my children's academia, sports, my husband's career, those circles, I I tend not to express what I do. People may know about it. They're welcome to ask me questions, but I am not going to freely talk about it simply because of the stigma.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and equally to why I don't mention to a lot of people that I do the show, and that's unfortunate. Um, I feel like there's a fear there's a that makes people lose their I don't want to say lose their minds, but their senses, where it's something that to some people it triggers something because they're afraid of it, and therefore they strike out in a really negative way, and it becomes problematic. And I think, I mean, what you don't understand, you fear, right? So I think that
Well,
might have to do with
correct. There are people that do think that someone like myself, like I know what you're thinking. No, I don't. I got to love with you, nor do I want to know. The thing is, that's a misconception. Meaning, if I'm standing at the grocery store, yes, sometimes I may tune in, but I'm not the one that's going to say anything, and I'm not doing that on purpose. Does that make sense? So, no, that is a misconception. The other thing is if somebody, we'll talk about skeptics. I myself, even having been in the industry and because of what I know of the industry as a whole, and I am stating there's some beautifully gifted people and then not so much.
right.
Okay. So as a whole, I'm skeptical because being in the industry, I know if you're accurate or not. I know what you're up to.
Yeah,
Bottom line. So I see how people are afraid, okay, when they hear the horror stories, meaning when they hear about, somebody selling candles, somebody selling spells, we could go on. I truly empathize. However, I also say to someone like that, if you haven't had a session with somebody that's authentic, just keep an open mind.
and that could go for everything, right? Keep an open mind. What was it? Dwayne Dyer says, "Be open to everything and attached to nothing."
Correct.
So that's how I'm trying to live my life, though it's not always easy when you do encounter people like what you're talking about, when they, you know, on Instagram, I'm getting great energies from your picture, your profile picture. Can I interest you in a free reading? Mm, no, no, I appreciate it. No.
Right. Or I sense that you have evil around you. I
Yes,
sense that you
yes.
have evil
Send
around
me
you.
$150 and I'll take the spell, the curse off you, things like that. Now, it could very well be that they indeed feel something, right? Who am I to say that
No,
they don't?
I'm telling you
But
no. I'm saying no.
all right, well, I'll let
Absolutely
you say
not.
it.
Absolutely
All right.
not.
Well, so then, how can someone discern between people who are truly, legitimately wanting to help someone like you and someone who is in it just for money?
Well, first off, and this is this would be my rule and my advice to somebody to discern. I always say good word of mouth, meaning if someone you trust recommends someone, I say yay. As well as we're going to do pretend that you're seeking guidance from a healer, psychic, etc. Check what is reviews. I'm like, what do you check? Check reviews, their credibility, etc. And then also their disclaimer, meaning, are they claiming to be something that they're not? Are they trying to sell you something that is not possible, meaning I can remove hell's spells from hell? I can do all this. Like, really, can you? Maybe I'm not going to go see you today. Do you understand? And then when you're sitting with someone, and this has always been my rule, um, if for myself, if I have a client and let's say they booked an hour session with me, within the first 5 to 10 minutes, literally, if we're not connecting, I will refund your money and we will end the session, simply because I follow a strict code of ethics. Okay. And so I always say, and that's something you should look for, is their code of ethics, meaning their code of conduct. Are they going to validate me, meaning my present time, who I am today, without asking me questions? So a question would be, so Will, do you have children? And if so, how many do you have? And how old are they? Do you understand? So they're almost leading for you to tell them everything.
Mm.
Another thing I always say is, if that individual, let's pretend for myself, if I, as a psychic, were to go get a session, on my website, I have a picture of myself with two dogs. If this person starts off my session with, you have two golden retrievers, I am out. Simply
Uh,
because
right.
you could look me up and that's the first thing you will see. However, if they were to add on to that something specific to me that you would not find on social media, I will stay. Then maybe you got me. Do you understand? So
Mm.
these are the things. And I myself am always very specific in my information, and I do not allow you to lead with your opinions. So, for example, if I tell somebody I see this coming in October and they say, well, I'm a Libra, so does that mean that? No. I don't, that has nothing to do with you being a Libra. I say October. That's it. That's all. Do you understand? So they won't allow you to lead and to put your spin on it, or for you to tell your whole life story to them. And yes, sometimes people want to talk about themselves. They do. But I feel the message should come first.
Well, that's amazingly refreshing to hear, honestly, because I've not ever heard that from someone like you before.
Oh, really?
Really. No, really, truly. Most of the time when I get people that come on the show, or not, I should say the people that have come on the show, I do vet pretty well. So I don't believe I've had anyone that's outwardly have an agenda. But in my vetting process, I've had people say to me, I'm happy to give you a reading to have you feel it for yourself, kind of thing. And then immediately start with, what's your birth date? Where were you born? Obviously, they're pulling an astrological chart for me and getting a lot of information that way, which is
Right.
if they're
And that's fine if they're an astrologer.
well, absolutely. But these are people who are claiming, like you, to be a clairvoyant medium. Um, for example, before we even started recording, we started talking about me and my exploration, and you didn't say where did it come from. Instead, you said, "What's up with your mother?" Which just so happens to have been the reason why I launched my exploration. So to me, that was a green flag. Like, okay, this she's on to something. There's something special here. Um, so I appreciate you mentioning that, because you're the first person that says I don't need any information. I don't want any information, and that's incredibly refreshing. So,
Well, thank you.
no, seriously, thank you, because they're like, to your point, there are not a lot of people out there like you who are truly, genuinely looking to help people. Which leads me to my next question: as you have developed your gifts, uh, when was the time that you said, I need to use this to help people? Like, what prompted you to put this into use in a way that would help others rather than just direct your own life?
My husband, who I believe fully and with all my soul is my soulmate. After we had our son, he encouraged me to, as a career, to do this professionally, meaning pursue my gifts. So he was the one that kind of said, "Okay, you know what? Do it." Do it. I'm like, "Ooh, I don't know. What will people say?" He's like, who cares?
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So he really encouraged me to be me, professionally, and all of me. So I I attribute that to him.
Wow, that's remarkable, because I've heard the other direction where spouses are like, "What are you doing? You're crazy." No, it's not. So that's really also another refreshing thing about you, is that You're with your soulmate, which is beautiful. So congratulations. Not a lot of people find them. But second, that he was so supportive of you to the point of pushing you to use your gifts. So send him our thanks while you're at it.
Well, I will. Thank you.
So now, what do you wish you had known before you started going down this path? If someone's starting to feel like they're developing these gifts or have had them but are afraid to come out of the closet, so to speak, with them, what kind of guidance can you give someone that is finding themselves on this path, whether it's voluntarily or not?
Okay, so it's going to be quite long-winded. A couple of
Wait,
things here.
we have time.
And this is my belief. Okay, so I'm going to start with that. I'm going to say intuition we all have intuition. It's just varying degrees. And yes, we can all learn to, like, the signs. We can all watch for the signs. Do you understand? And we can all learn to listen to the intuition we have better. So I'm starting off with that. Then there are those of us that have more than just intuition, meaning we're going to call it psychic ability or mediumistic ability. So that would be like a dimmer switch. You cannot shut this off. Why does it come out sometimes at different periods in time more than others? Because we got to pretend it's like a crazy dimmer switch. It goes up and down like crazy.
It has a short
Um,
or something on the fuse.
Right. So it's learning to tune that, not to quiet it, to tune it. Now, within the industry, this is the funny part within the industry. There will be people who will tell everybody, well, you think mediumship's cool? I can teach you to be a medium and you can be a professional at it. No, you can't. Okay? It doesn't mean, well, maybe you can, but no, you can't. Anyway, bottom line, it doesn't mean that you can't for yourself learn the signs, correct? But you can't go telling everybody this because not everybody has that gift within them.
So
Okay, so
you're saying that not everyone can be you can't develop psychic senses. That's not possible.
no, it's either there or it's not. We can learn to tune what we have. We got to pretend that some of us have this beautiful cello. Some of us have a guitar. Some of us have, a piano, correct? Some of us can play all the bloody instruments. Some of us can't. That's it. That's all. Yes, we can learn to play it better, but it doesn't mean you're going to be Beethoven just because somebody told you you're going to be. Do you understand?
Yep.
And that's what I'm saying. So this goes back to the industry hits and misses. So it's finding the appropriate mentor that is within their ethics, that is going to be honest with you and tell you yes or no, and then is going to provide you with the tools to best help you on your journey.
Well,
Okay?
you've just shattered the dreams of millions of people across the world who wish that they could develop their psychic abilities.
Right, I'm a dream wrecker. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I am
Katherien.
so sorry, but that's the truth. And through my many years in this, I have had several people come to me and say, Katherien, I went to see so and so, and they told me that I can be a medium. I don't like. What do you see? And I'm like, no. You can save your $1,000 or 2,000, or sometimes upward of 3,000, and you can look for things online for free. You can invest that money, maybe Bitcoin. There's a few Bitcoin. We got Hollow Hot. We got a lot of tips here. You can just take yourself out for the day instead of wasting that money, and or find a mentor that is willing to help you learn to, utilize what you have. Or you can take the course and then come back and see me when you're upset, because they haven't given you what you need. Choice is yours, though, because it's all about choice at the end of the day, right?
Right.
And yes, it does sound like I'm being a dream wrecker in a sense, but I guess it will really depend. Are you seeking? What are you really seeking? Do you need somebody to sell you a dream, or do you want the truth that can enable you to go further on your path towards your dream?
Well, it makes a lot of sense to me simply because uh, I, for example, when I was a kid, I was great in English. I was awful in math. I'm still awful at math. So I have skill sets and I have challenges. Not everyone is good at math. So why would everyone be good at being a psychic? Right? It's
Correct. That's all I'm saying. So if you do feel that you have a gift, um, and you don't have support, we're going to do a pretend here, like you don't have a spouse or family or friends, then you need to seek somebody within the industry, not somebody that's been in it, because I've seen this as well. Meaning, I got myself a tarot deck, I've been doing this for 5 minutes, so now I'm going to teach everybody.
right.
No, don't go to
Okay. I did that
meaning somebody
once,
that
Catherine. Just once. You know, you don't have to keep bringing it up again and again for another. Just teasing.
um anyway, so then you find somebody that you connect with that can help you learn to fine tune your instrument, as well as give you tips on how to bring yourself forward on that career path. And
Okay.
there are some beautifully gifted people out there that will help you if
Is that
you
something that you do, that you help people with?
from time to time, yes.
Okay.
Okay, but I, as you can tell, I'm very honest.
Yes.
And I don't mean to, like, sincerely, I don't mean to step on toes or wreck dreams. I just feel that we need honesty, and honesty takes us to credibility, right? And offers real validation.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I get into trouble all the time because people say that, well, Will was very forthcoming. He was very, what's the term I heard at work the other day? He was very candid with his feedback. Well, I know no other way to be. It just doesn't make sense to me. Why bother to pretend? So then a question for you. Can you feel if someone has a gift that you can tell them, or is it something that it's you only the person themselves would be able to know?
It's a
Like
yes
if I
and
came
no.
to you if I came to you and I said, Catherine, someone told me that I am clairvoyant, that I have gifts that I have to develop. Um, would would you say, would you be able to say, yeah, I feel that? Or would you say, well, only you would know, Will?
Like, you mean for you specifically?
Well,
I
let's go
do
there.
feel that you have strong intuition. And I do feel there have been times where you've seen and felt things through your life. Okay. And I do feel, yes, there's some, times that you've questioned what's out there because of what you've seen, felt, or heard. So I do feel that. So you do have increased, we'll say, sensitivity and intuition. Can you develop that further? Yes. Will that mean that you're going to be a psychic for other people? No. Can you use that in other ways? Yes.
And that is a beautiful way to say it. So I will be the first one to say this show is not monetized at all. I'm not interested in monetizing it. I'm doing it because it's a passion of mine. I'm doing it because maybe it will help other people, but for the most part, it's helping me. When someone said to me, "Will you have a gift you have to develop because you have to help other people?" My first thought was, I'm not sure I want to do that. Right? If I, I have dabbled, I don't know if I believe it. I don't want to develop it because I don't want to be wrong. Right? I'll be very honest with you. I don't want to be say something to someone and go and then have them go, "Oh wow, that was terrible. You don't know what you're talking about." I don't want to be that guy. Right? So I will never go down that path. But there have been times, very personally, where I have gotten a very pointed message that I felt had to be given to someone, that I said, I don't know what this means. I don't know if it resonates with you at all or not. Take it for what it's worth, but here's what I'm getting. Take it for what it is.
Right.
And it just so happens that we've tested that on one occasion and came back dead on. So, and the only reason why I bring it up is because someone who is a clairvoyant medium channel did say to me after we stopped taping, you've got a gift you've got to develop, right? But I'm curious because you just never know, right? So I'm just curious if that's something that, because people hear that all the time. I'm hearing people say, "Oh yeah, someone such and such said I was psychic, or such and such I need to go down this path." So it is, I guess, someone like you who truly is in touch with things like this would be able to tell. But God, it's like, how do you trust someone with that, right? I now the person who told this to me, I trust implicitly,
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't doubt the fact that she was genuine in her communication to me. But now hearing you say that some people have it, some people don't, well, I don't personally feel I have it, but other people are telling me that I do. So then, could I be wrong, or are they wrong? That's kind of where that comes from, if that makes any sense to you.
Well, okay, I see. I see what you're saying, but I'm going to also go to this. Regardless of what I've said, or regardless of what they've said, you don't fully feel that. You are, otherwise, you wouldn't question it.
Is that it, or is it my ego? Is it me not being wanting to be wrong and being really nervous about saying something that people think, oh, this guy's a charlatan, right? Because you've been talking about this our entire interview, that there are people out there that really are just in it for the money. I don't want to be looked at that way in any way, shape, or form. If I get a message that I give to someone and it helps them, fantastic. But I don't purposely want to go out and say, hey, I'm a psychic, because it doesn't feel genuine to me, if that makes sense.
No, I hear that. But okay. Why I'm laughing is like I hear it. Truly what you're saying, that there are those that they're afraid of, they're afraid to be wrong. But here's my other thing I'd like to ask you. Are you also afraid if you're right?
Well, so what? Sorry?
It's kind of like there's a fear of being right. So sometimes we may see something and you don't want to see that. And then you're right. Is that more scary than being wrong?
Well, that's a heck of a point, because when I did come back that what I said to this person was dead on, it did freak me out. So maybe
Right.
could be something behind that. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Something I don't want to think about, but yes. You're right. Okay. All right. You got me. All right. So, Katherien, I have loved talking with you, and I really hope that we remain in contact, because I love your energy. I love your candor. I love your genuineness and your sincerity. I urge everyone to listen to your show, Dead Time, because I just love what you are all about. What kind of resources would you recommend for someone to look at if they were interested in this world in any way, shape, or form? Is there anything other than your show, which I strongly urge people to listen to, that they can turn to?
Well, the internet, as much, as much as we could
Uncle
call it a
Google.
rabbit hole in its own, does have a lot of information there. I do encourage people who are looking to, we'll just say, listen to the signs, so to speak, in order to tap more into their own intuition, is to actually find out what the signs are. Things like feathers, nickels, dimes, when to trust your gut, what that really means. No, it's not always indigestion. Sometimes we actually have a gut feeling. We can also work with oracle cards. The tarot is one of my favorite, because you don't need to be a psychic to work with the tarot. It goes back into the 1400s, very beautiful history there. And you could actually do another show on that. Well, regardless, there's so much out there. And I'm just saying to find what draws you and then do some research. And if you choose to further that, look towards somebody that can offer you a mentorship, or somebody within the industry that you can talk to about it.
That's wonderful. I am going to put all of your social media links on our show notes. So if you're interested in connecting with Katherien, you can do that very easily by going to skepticmetaphysician.com. But your website is Katherienclairvoyant.com. There's a interesting way of spelling it, so I urge you to go to the show notes to get it correctly. But then also on Instagram, you're Katherien Clairvoyant, and on Facebook, you are KL Clairvoyant. All of those links will be on the show notes, so you can just hit the link and it will take you directly to her social media platforms if you're so inclined. Katherien, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really, truly, I hope that we maintain contact, because I really value you as a person, as a clairvoyant, and as a soul, because I've loved our conversation. So thank you.
And thank you so much for having me, Will.
And listener, I want to thank you more than anyone else, because you have lots of choices in this day and age. And the fact that you have decided to listen to this show speaks a lot and makes me super appreciative for coming along on this journey of discovery. Now, I'd love to continue a conversation with you on Facebook and Instagram, so you can always find me there at Skeptic Metaphysician, or just go to skepticmetaphysician.com. The website that right there, you can get all the links, all the direct links, not only to our social media platforms and those of our guests, but you can also subscribe to the show there. You can leave us an anonymous review there, good or bad. We want to hear what your thoughts are. And you can actually even leave us a voicemail directly on there. Let us know if you want us to air it or not on the show. We can do that if you are so inclined, or if you just want to give us candid feedback, we welcome that wholeheartedly. As always, if you know someone that would benefit from hearing the messages we shared on the show today, or on any of our other shows, I hope you won't hesitate to share the show with someone else that you feel will benefit from it. Excuse me. It will help grow the show and may just help someone else come to terms with the fact that we're so much more than this three-dimensional body that we are all inhabiting. Now, if you miss any of our show today, just a reminder, all of the episodes are on the website, skepticmetaphysician.com. And don't forget, you can become a member of the community there for free, and you can enjoy added benefits of being let in on the secret when every episode is published. So please feel free to join us there. I hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as I have. Sadly, that's all that I have for you today. Thanks again for joining. We'll see you again on the next episode of The Skeptic Metaphysician. Until then, take care.